Hello and welcome to another BuildASoil YouTube video. Today we've got season 1 of the battle tents and it's episode 6. And we're on our first week of flower. The last video that you saw, we really had to strap these plants back because we made the mistake that most rookies make where they over veg. And it's so easy to do when you get in a system like the BuildASoil way because things can go so quickly. Good grow light, good environment, good genetics, and things can go wild. This GMO is a very vigorous vegger, and when I left town, the plant was under re-veg. If you don't know what that means, basically the clone that we had taken got left in the dark for a little bit and it wanted to flower. So before I left town, I couldn't really flip. When I got back, it was almost too late, and so it's been a week since we did that massive defoliation, hack back, and strap down with the trellis net. So I want to show you what 7 days can do, what it looks like, and what the next steps are. So let's take a look. All right, now the lighting changes a lot when I open this, but I'm hoping that you can kind of see in there. So let's show you what it looks like. Really good canopy in here. We're starting to get some vertical height around the center and certain sides, shooting up a little too high. And that's normal, it's not gonna be perfect. And so we're going to do a couple of things. We can either pinch, we could try and weave under this screen, or we can add another layer. Adding another layer is gonna be the easiest for me. And so the goal of this video is to show you how we add the other layer. And then we're not gonna affect these. These are at a great height. But the ones that are taller, we're gonna move across the actual trellis net that we're gonna put down and hold it back so that we get more uniformity. And while we do that, it's gonna be important to measure the intensity of the light, make sure we're still within range. So we're gonna go over the environment. And then lastly, if you look under here, it's now identifying the layers. And since we've strapped it back and everything's pretty good, it's clear like this isn't gonna make it, right? It's too far down low. So I've got a couple options. I could remove it, or I can see how long this one is. I can take it out and I can try and push it up somewhere where it might have better impact on the canopy. And then when I see everything is either pushed up or not, I now have to remove the excess. This will not make it to the top. I need to remove it. Here's a leaf that I defoliated and forgot to take out, so it dried out. And these leaves that are under here, they're just kind of collecting moisture. The airflow is blocked a little bit by them, and they're not helping the plant that much because the light's way up there and it's not outside. We're under a flat canopy. It's not like a sun is moving around. So we're gonna defoliate a lot of the leaves in here. This overlappingness, there's just no point. And so, see this one? It's a little too low now. It's just not gonna make it. These other ones are dominating. So what I can do is release this one, back one square, and let it go up. And so in managing some of the ones that are too low, some of the ones that are too high, and by defoliating, we can open up the airflow. We can make sure that we're maxing out the number of tops that have good access to light. And that's all we really have to do. That's good management. Now, here's what I suggest. Don't follow exactly what I did where I over-vegged it and had to strap it down. It makes it more complicated, especially in your first grow. You should be flipping the flower with a very small plant, and you should have not as full of a canopy so that it's very easy to let the plant fully take over without having to remove so much and squash it back so much. And you'll see it's way easier that way. But I also like the opportunity to teach, and really what happened here was it shows the resilience of these plants and how easy it is when you know how far things can be taken. Now, I don't like to work against myself, make it hard, but when you know where the edges are, it's nice because I knew like, oh well, worst case, I just have to feed really well and I have to drop it. And had I not done that, had I just flipped the flower, it would have been growing through the lights. It would have ruined my grow. So we had to focus on the weakest link. The weakest link was the height. As soon as I hacked it back, I realized the next weakest link, not enough food. I already over-vegged it, and now we have to send it for a really long flower. GMO likes to go 12 weeks. We're only 1 week in, 11 more weeks. The other thing is, she likes to stretch for a few weeks pretty aggressively, so it's only 1 week in and we've hit this height. If I let this stay the same height, it's gonna be here in 2 weeks. So what I'm gonna do is keep managing that through this second layer, maybe even a third layer of trellis, and some pinching and bending if I have to keep it maxed out around this height. This way I can manage the intensity of the light to be enough without overdoing it, get good quality and yield, and that's all I'm really focused on. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me just walk through my thought process real quick. I've got the trellis net, I'll go over the environment last. I've got this. I brought my gun out to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. And I also brought the par meter. I have one for the phone too. That's the one I recommend. But sometimes my phone starts ringing when I break it out. So this is just a little easier for me. And what I encourage you to do is base the environment off the leaf surface temperature. And so I can see right now that it's pretty good, cool leaf surface temperature in here, 67 degrees. It's too cool. So I'd like to ideally warm it up a bit. You can see it's 75 in the ambient, the 65-degree leaf surface temperature. And so I'm not going to get anything warmer, 68, right? And that's because these LEDs don't send a lot of heat down. Now, that's slightly less than ideal. I'd like it to be warmer in here. I don't have a ton of control over that. My weakest link would be that if I went off warmth without adding a heater, I'd be cranking my light up to 10. If I did that, it'd be 85 in the tent. And then when I did the leaf surface, it'd be like 75 degrees and it'd be really nice. The reason why we like warmth in a biological system is that that increases the amount of biological activity and enzymes and speeds up nutrient uptake. But if I did that, the light would be so powerful it'd start to burn the plants. So the weaker link is getting the lighting perfect and then basing your environment around the heat that that produces. I could go turn the heater up. I know that when I do close this door, it is slightly warmer and I've had it open for a minute, but it's still within range. I'm not mad at that. It's still gonna do well. The other thing is the earth boxes seem to be much more biologically active and I think they do really, really well. But those are things to consider. It's always about what the weakest link is and how you can impart control over that. So leaf surface temp could be a little bit warmer in here. That might help, but I'm not gonna adjust it because I think it would send other things a little bit further out of control. And then let's see. Par meter wise, at the top here, we're about 700. So that's about perfect. That's the range that I want to be in. I started off just a little below 7 because I knew that it would grow into it. Around the edges here, we're in the 600. So it's really like, because of the height is the difference, not like in the center at the same height, this light is very even, but there's some taller ones. And so when I strap this next trellis net on, I'm going to keep it lower than this, which means I'm still in the ideal par range, which means I don't have to adjust. Now, if you're confused by some of that, we have a really simple guide on the Improve a Grow section of BuildASoil where we go over ways you can improve your grow. And getting this stuff right is some of the simplest things that you can do to start to improve your grow. And we have all the information on that. We have lots of episodes about it. But essentially, if you don't want to go through all that, you can just use the cheat sheet. And this is available at BuildASoil.com. Educational tab, environmental protocol. I'll just flash it real quick. Now, what we're looking at in here is a number of things, but what I was just mentioning as far as the DLI or the PPFD, the intensity of the light, when I read on here for bloom in the first 4 weeks during stretch, we want to have the intensity on the low end at 700 and the high end at 1000. My recommendation to newer growers is to err on the lowest side of my recommendations with your light intensity at all times. Only once you get better and you know that you have enough plant height, you know your environment is good and you know you have good genetics, can you get closer to the 1000. If you start to blast this with 1000 ppfd, yes, I could get a little more warmth in here, but I'm gonna cause them to grow a little bit faster. That speed of growth, when the plant is that big and that small of a container, I might just kind of spiral. I might be going a little too fast. So I like to do a little bit lower light intensity. It makes everything easier. And I believe because everything's easier, you get better yield and quality that way. However, when you start to really dial your grow in, you're gonna find some genetics do better under more lighting. If I flip to flower sooner, I can crank things a little higher because I'm not worried about running out of space. And so that's why there's guidelines and parameters here. It's not an exact. It's about learning this process and this system and how to apply it to your specific weakest link at the time. So we're right within range. That's all I needed to know. As far as environment and temperature, the temperature, we're focusing on the actual leaf. And so when I look at that, during the day, I'd rather be like closer to 80 leaf surface temp. So 65 to 70, a little bit low, but I'm within range. And like I said, weakest link is start with your lighting first. So I could warm it up in here, but I think I'm happy, so we're gonna leave it all. Let's put the trellis net on. We've now talked about the environment and everything. And lastly, what I do is, it's kind of hard to see, so you can actually build. Some people put like a cork and a colored straw, and they cut it to height, and they'll put it in here so it floats in the water. You can use like a bobber for fishing. And then when it disappears, they'll know they're out of water. But right now, what I have to do is I have to visually just look. So let's see. Okay, they're out. So I'm gonna fill these up and make sure because the goal with the earth box, the golden rule is you wait till it's bone dry in the bottom. The soil still has plenty of moisture. Then you fill the bottom. And then all guesswork is eliminated. That's why we say earth boxes are the best for beginners and busy people, really. But they unlock the perfect watering every time without having to know anything about it. And that makes the biggest difference in quality and yield. If you look under here, everything's nice and moist. We've got the top dress. And so we're just gonna be focusing on putting water down the bottom. Now, since it's dry, if I really wanted to, I could put Root Wise, I could put Build-A-Bloom, I could put some goodies in here, and it would be no problem. And then I could just water down here tomorrow. These plants are so much bigger than the earth box. I'm not scared. You could water the top, water the bottom, do whatever you want. They're in peak stretch. It's hard to overwater right now. Once stretch stops, I'll be a little bit more diligent about that, making sure that we're not overwatering if I choose to add anything to the top. Right now, I'm not gonna add anything though. They got plenty of top dress, so I'm gonna do water only and we're just gonna let it ride. I'm gonna get in here over the next 2 days and I'm gonna spend some time cutting these branches out and defoliating. In my opinion, it's much more enjoyable to come in here 10, 20 minutes at a time and pick leaves while I'm observing than to just get after it for an hour on my hands and knees and pick the leaves. And so I just wanted to share that with you, share with you what I'm going to do to open up airflow, and I have decisions to make. Like, you know, some of these little side branches here, they're just gonna have to come off. They're not gonna make it or have to unhook it. We talked about that. There's no perfect way to do this, so don't overthink it. Just know that the more even you can get it, the better results you're gonna get. And the less stuff that's down here that's not gonna turn into good bud, the less you're wasting of all that good soil to go to places where it's not needed. So this is very, very helpful in indoor growing. Let's show you the other one, because it's a battle tent. And if you don't know already, we're running 2 different grow lights is the only difference. Now I will say, had we flipped them to flower when they're smaller, we could compare the 2 lights more accurately. But I will say both lights look like they're doing well. This light has more green in it, and it's known for that, and it's made by High Grove. I think this company over here is a little bit larger company, and they seem to be a little bit more dialed on their process. This one was made specifically to fit a 4x4 grow tent as evenly as possible, where that one is featuring the more green. So we just wanted to put them up to each other and be like, does even matter? Can't the plant receive light here and give a little bit of the energy to the side? Or must you get even light everywhere to have the best result? Now, all things being the same, even sounds really good to me. I think it's a worthwhile goal. But if the green proves to be something that bulks up the bud better, some outlier that we're like, wow, there's something going on under the green, then I would eventually want green and even. So it's just a fun way for us to test and see if it's marketing, gimmick, and hype, or if it actually works. I will say with a good quality light, with the right power of PPFD, you should get good results like this. Across the board, an earth box, good soil, there's no deficiencies, there's no wondering what I'm doing wrong. There's just managing the canopy and the environment, and it's just so much easier this way. So if you have questions about this stuff, let me know. Otherwise, I want to put this trellis net on so we can wrap this episode up and show you the last details. There, this should be really quick and easy. The first one was kind of a pain, but this one, we don't have much to do because we're doing it on time this time instead of late. All right, so I will open up the 4x4 trellis, which can be tricky, so just be careful that you're pulling in the right spot to begin. And then just like the first time, what I'm gonna do is find and untangle here the double wall. See how there's a loop over there? So here, I just wanna get it untangled so that the back wall has this double layer there. That's how I identify like the side of the sheet, you know, that it's straight. And so then what I'm gonna do is find a way real quick to get it strapped to the back above these side poles, which I can remove if they're in my way and put them back up later. Lastly, I don't wanna forget, I've got the poles here. When I turn off the camera, I'm gonna put these on now because I don't want the tent door sucking in and pushing these buds up as they start to develop. Now that they're starting to form, I wanna make sure that my poles are blocking the sides from going in. So it's not gonna be super pretty, but I'm going to get it done. Make sure, grab my zip ties and let me just get this handled. In a 4x4, this is doable. In a 5x5, it's better to have some side access. You know, it gets really far to reach over stuff. You might have to crawl under, but you gotta find a way. A lot of times, if that's the case, you can preset this up, but man, sometimes you just have to figure it out. All right. Now, because we're not dropping this one too much, it's more important that I just get it tight and at the level that starts to control these tall ones. And so one of the tricks I showed you is to hook up your trellis net, but then consider how tight it's gonna get, because you don't have to use this last hole. Yeah, it's 4x4, but I want it tight. And so I can kind of connect it at this corner here, and at the same one here, taking effectively out a few inches. The other way is to connect it full on one corner here, and then go at a diagonal all the way across to stretch. Kind of up to you. Then I'll tuck the plants in. So I'm just gonna choose one here. I think I'm gonna make it as tight as possible on all sides. And using the zip ties, you can double connect zip ties or make them long off the pole as long as you get it to here. So I don't wanna like rip it. It'll spin through, but I wanna get it tight, so. There we go. Last one here. So again, I'm gonna go back one square and leave this one kind of in the front, making it really a lot tighter here. You can see how much tighter it is now. So slack, tight. I like tight. It just is easier to use, especially when you're not just supporting, but you're actually trying to limit height. Having it tight helps, otherwise it bows up. The plants are really strong. Okay, so without lowering these side poles, that's about as low as I can get it, and that's fine because these haven't quite hit. It's just about perfect. Like I said, I'm gonna release some of these up that are too low because they're never gonna make it if I don't. That's gonna be part of the goal here. So like for instance, this one, boom, I'll let it come up here now. Good to go. It just, some shoot, some don't. It's all on the hormone. So you might think it's even, and then some will shoot, some won't, and then you release the ones that didn't. Now it's all even, okay? Same thing here. I'm just gonna be gentle and move this over a square. Now look at this one, had a busted square on it. All right, if that happens, it's not the end of the world. You can just kind of tie a knot. Okay, you just gotta think quick, and it really does not matter. I can get that tighter, but honestly, that's gonna hold that little bit of plant down. That's all I really need. And now it may pop up in a couple hours, but tomorrow I'll tuck it again. I'll tuck it again. I'm just gonna keep doing it every day while these other ones get a chance to grow up vertically. Now this one here, I could push any direction, but it looks like over here we need some help. So I'm gonna go that direction. Okay. And then if it's really standing up, I can pinch it too. And now what'll happen is that'll stay low, and then this one will shoot. Just by pinching, not even using the screen. But the screen is kind of like the level in there. So that's the goal. I wanna keep everything down below it, move things out to a wider spot, like this one, just moving out will make it lower. And then I'll move it over back to this square if it gets taller. And we just keep moving it around in here so it stays even. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time doing that. In the next video, you'll see how I've been able to manage it. And then we have to make a decision. If it's still shooting too much through this layer, and it's not stopping in the next 10 days or so, then I may have to start pinching a lot or add another layer to start bending them out further again to keep them down. The other thing I can do is, as this goes, I can pop these poles off pretty easily and pop them above, and I can slide this trellis net down, kind of pulling it down just a little bit. But I don't wanna do that until I've gone in and defoliated a little bit, make it easier on myself. So that's just the logic that I'm using here. But happy to show you that things look really good in both sides of the tent, even after that massive haircut and strap down and all that. So just, that's why we do these videos. A lot of times you hear stuff, but I think showing it to you will help you really borrow from our belief and show you that you just need to focus on the weakest link, do what's necessary, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have a grow 24/7, 365, adding to your life of fresh flavors. And that helps you just become like, you know, everyone's favorite grower. You always got the good stuff. And it's good to share as a gift. And it's just, if it's an important part of your life, learning these basics will just change everything, because you're no longer a consumer, you're a producer, and you get to control that. So I hope this episode's been helpful. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm gonna go do the same thing right now over here. This one's slightly more even so far. I think really that's not the light. I think it's more like how I did this one second and learned from that one. And this one I trellised slightly better because I started with topping, where that one I like pulled down and then realized it wasn't gonna work, had to lift it up and top it. And so that created a little bit more uniformity on this side, but it still needs that trellis, and there's still some tall ones, and there's certainly some low ones that need to be released. Like this one's too low. It's greatly gonna benefit from me doing this. I don't wanna break it, so you gotta bend it kind of angles, but there. Much better height now. Now it's gonna be even. So those little things are the tricks that I wanna impart to you today. That's what this episode is about, and also in continuing highlighting what it looks like. We're 1 week in, like I said, this has probably got another 10, 11 weeks of flower. So we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about as we go. And as per the BuildASoil way, once this is done and stretch is stopped, we kind of just get to sit back and watch the grass grow. And it's a really enjoyable part because you get to really focus on the genetics and the nuance, and we'll be able to subtly see if there's differences under this green light versus that Grand Master light and see, are the nugs developing differently? Is there different odors, different structure, or is it indistinguishable? Unless it's a big difference, we're not really gonna talk about it, but it is fun to watch together. And so for that, I appreciate you being a part of our YouTube series, for subscribing, for watching. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you on the next BuildASoil YouTube video.